too far.
No, here's what happened, is he is being interrogated after the most stressful situation of his life, right? And the officer is actually asking him leading questions and trying to get him to agree with them, okay? And that's why you don't talk to the police, because they are going to try to put words in your mouth.
But
and
this was
that's
after,
exactly what they did.
But that was after he read his Miranda rights. He didn't have to speak.
He didn't have to speak. But again, he asked to talk to the officer. He wanted to explain to him what happened. However, they are trying to get him to confess to something that he didn't do. And the video evidence shows he didn't do it.
Steve, I have to ask you though, the statements that Scotty made after the arrest don't seem to fully align with what you're saying right now. He admits
You've done all the reading. You're a scholar. You're a professor. You've done all the reading.
Here's what happened.
You've done the intellectual heavy lifting.
More or less, eat shit and die.
You wouldn't know a fact if it begged you all night long.
Want to give the wrong impression, because I am very high.
Ran up behind him with a hatchet, smash, smash, smash.
Yeah, care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen.
That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Wow, welcome back, everybody. This is a barnstorm, a sandstorm of podcasts for yours truly. This is Tyler Yonke, Libertarian Podcast Review. We'll talk a little bit about the Libertarian part, some interesting, I don't know, maybe we'll get into that. Tyler Yonke, I'm a family law attorney, but it's what I do full time. I do that, and then I do a few videos, and you're like, oh, but you're wearing a t-shirt, and you're in your office. Yeah, this is how I go to work. And if I have clients come in, I usually know it's on the schedule. If I go to court, I totally change. Okay. The new Osif Cam looks good. Okay. Love the music. Thank you for that. Another episode breaking Baldo. Damn it. He started early. I missed the press conference clip he showed. Let me tell you, the press conference clip, it had nothing to do with Ricada. Okay. That was Scotty Scheffler, #1 golfer in the world, was arrested a few weeks ago. And that was his attorney. And I thought it was, I just thought I'd play that. All charges have been dropped, as they should have. The police were horrible in that situation. Guy didn't turn his body cam on. And I think that is a nice juxtaposition to put up against Nick, his hubris. He's an attorney. Scotty Scheffler is not an attorney, and he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do nothing wrong. They arrested him there in Valhalla in Kentucky regardless. Dropped all charges. He was going to bring a civil suit that was going to happen. And the DA went in there yesterday, dropped it, and said, you know what the DA said? The DA said, I have an obligation. It's in the statute for me as a district attorney that if there's no probable cause to bring charges, not evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, probable cause to bring charges, I have an ethical duty to drop them. And he did so, which meant it never should have happened in the first place. I wish there were more, DAs around there like this that would do this, because oftentimes when I used to do criminal stuff, I did a little bit. I literally had one tell me, we love to take things to trial. Now that one, they ended up dropping it, and we won a civil suit against them. So that's how bad it was, and that's how ridiculous those things be. Can he sue for damaging his performance? That was what he was likely going to do. He still played okay. He still played Scotty Scheffler like, didn't win the next one either. But anyway, the point on that is they were going to bring a civil suit, probably for defamation, illegally detaining him, false imprisonment, And the attorney comes out and said, and we'll get to the next stuff, but I thought this was an interesting way to start. That his attorney comes out and says, what would it gain Scotty Scheffler to sue the police department in the city unless, they dropped the charges? But what is it going to gain? They're not going to learn. This cop, by the way, I love this defense attorney. He goes, the cops never learn their lesson. The city is the one that pays, which means the taxpayers pay. So what's the point of doing this? Scotty has enough money, but I think it was at this point. I mean, the cop literally, I don't know if you know the details. There was someone got killed going into a person going into the golf course in the morning on the road. And so the extra police got brought in there. It was confusing. It was rainy. It was dark. And a police officer told him. Now, according to Shuffler, the police officer hit him actually with a flashlight. He didn't know it was a police officer while he was in the car through the window. And then this cop claimed that Scotty dragged him 20 or was it 30 feet or something like that. It was something ridiculous. None of it. There was some cameras. There wasn't body cam. And so anyway, that's what it is. But here's the difference. Scotty was not hammered. He did talk to the cops. Probably shouldn't do that. And there you go. I'm going to play one more clip, something completely different, because I thought this was an entertaining thing as well. And this is the kind of shit you deal with sometimes as attorneys, especially when you're in a Zoom court here. Okay? So this guy appears in court. Let's play this.
Versus Corey Harris.
Assistant Public Defender Natalie Tate for Mr. Harris, who should be present in Zoom.
Mr. Harris, are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually. So just give me 1 second. I'm parking right now.
This judge already seems perturbed. One, be ready for court. This is is that his attorney appearing for him?
Stationary?
I'm pulling in right
Or is that the
now
DA?
at this second. Yes,
Or
I
88?
am.
All right. What are we doing?
Your Honor, we are respectfully requesting an adjournment in this matter, up possibly 2 to 4 weeks if the court would allow.
That does appear to be his attorney, I think. Now he's like, what?
Okay. So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Driving while
And he
license
was
suspended.
just driving.
No, he pulled over.
And he didn't have a license.
Is with the charges, Your Honor, yes.
No, I'm looking at his
Yes.
record. He doesn't have a license. He's suspended and he's just driving.
That is correct, Your Honor.
I don't even know why he would do that. So defendant's bond is revoked in this matter. Defendant is to turn himself into the Washington County Jail by 6 p.m. today. Failure to turn himself in will result in a bench warrant with no bond. Thank you.
I mean, look, can you say that it's a racist? Because that was his attorney. And what are you going to do as the attorney? I've had those kind of situations. Not that, well, not quite that, but where your client just can't help themselves. You know, you try to talk to them about what's going to happen. There's what's called short cause hearings, and then long cause or trials. So a lot of these short cause, you file a motion, you get into court. That judge, if you're an attorney, they won't talk to or have your client speak unless you basically say it's okay to do so. And I try to assess my clients based on how I think they are going to do. Sometimes it's too nervous for them, they don't want to talk, or they prefer not to, and sometimes they can really say they're what they need to well, and they know a lot of information. But you try to get this info out of them so that you don't have a problem. Went into court once, and the husband was filing charges, domestic violence restraining order against the wife, saying that she was doing all kinds of meth and drugs and whoring herself out, and she had the kids. And so, you know, we're trying to do, and she interrupts to talk and because he said, that's, you know, are you doing this? And the judge wants to know. And she's like, well, yeah, I was doing all that, but, and you're just like, okay, we're done. All right, well, let's get into the Nick Rekieta stuff. Actually, before we do that, what I did want to pull up was some comments, last 2 shows, just to kind of go over what some people have been saying stuff here. YouTube recommended Side of the Blue. I have subbed 100% right on all of this, mate. This kids is what matters in this poo show. That was from Scott Jonesy. Appreciated that. Number 1 priority is always the children. That was by our own Shannon. Mel682 said priorities are so screwed up, and nowadays it's scary. The children will always come before unreasonable, immature, self-centered adults. Stop enabling them. Prayers won't help in the short term. As far as I'm concerned, you're all good. I appreciated that. His chat constantly sending super chats to get him drunk, or fake people's dying, sick moms, daughters, friends, cousins, dogs, favorites, squeak toys didn't help. I will say about his chat. I was in there with the Daryl Brooks trial, okay? And there was a mom that testified. Who knows why Daryl Brooks calls this mom that he had hit her kids. I don't think they had died. There were other ones that died, but they were all really badly injured. He brings her in as a witness. Why? She's hostile. She testifies. It's a horrible thing. Nick finds out there's a GoFundMe, posts it up. I donated a bunch of people, and I think she raised, like, within just a few minutes, I want to say several $100,000 based on Nick. So the chat you've got to know what to do. Like JC said, my iPhone almost autocorrected Shannon to Shabos. Yeah, see, I'm not going to be bullied by JC here in the comments to do whatever, or Andy. Okay, so greeting from the road back to California, Lincoln. I know he went out to Childerberg. I hope that was a good time. Okay, let's keep going here with some of these chats, because I just want to kind of still go down. Nick is a terrible person who thought he was better than everyone else. Once again, I don't think Nick was a terrible person, but when the drugs take over, once again, you can argue this, because I do think there is a problem with, let's go this one, with when you start to do those drugs, when you have kids. You have kids, I think it's 17 to 5 or 6 to 16, somewhere around that range. And when you're voluntarily deciding, you have these 5 humans that are the 16-year-old could kind of take care of themselves, but you're still molding this person. And if you're deciding to go out and hang out with friends, bring a couple over that's moving in with you, so there's a foursome now living in the house with all the kids, and you've decided to do that first line of drugs and then continue down that route, you might be a bad person. Because the decision to do so is based on everything going on in your life. You've got to rationally decide and to do this. And when you first make that step, that's obviously a problem. So maybe he's a bad person. I don't know. Wow, people say women are bad. Fear, cough, gossip, FIR. Okay, so I assume that was coming at me from Jody Kohoot 94. So I just said, and spelling. Because she can't spell right, you're not going to get good comments out of me. Yeah, whatever. Gossip. This is a guy that's online and doing LawTube stuff, and it's a case in the court, and I talk about those kind of things. The comment around 22 round is uneducated. I have a bunch of different empty shells. Don't use them for doing drugs. Okay. So Brandon Butler, no offense, but it doesn't mean that it's uneducated to me and or to you. I get it. I have empty spent shells as well. But this is what I put. I'm like, me too. It's not uneducated for this instance, however, as I believe in what it was being used for. Also, the details of the search warrant have been released, and it's bad. So yes, and I saw, and there's some leaked DMs with Nick, and he's like, I don't even have a 22. Okay, well they found a 22 shell in your house. Are you saying it was planted? Maybe it was planted. Who knows? But if it wasn't planted and they did it, I imagine it could be anything. By the way, this is actually what it could very well be. These things like this happen to me as well, which is you've got kids. My kids shoot guns. My kids were even younger. They were doing so, and they're out playing around. Find spent shells in different places and bring them back to the house. Now, why are they in the master bedroom? Perhaps you were filling it up with Coke and you were doing it. I don't know. The spent shell doesn't mean anything, especially if you don't have a 22, but there was a gun and child endangerment thing, so maybe that's what it was kind of going after. Okay, this is the last show, the one yesterday. Barnes relies too much on what he wants the law to work, not how the law actually works. I do believe that's correct. There's any valid comments here? Plus, he's extremely Byron. Well, I think they meant boring. Well, the issue with the law is its interpretation is not black and white writing. In other words, how can I influence people to see the situation this way? Just shows Barnes isn't good at reviewing facts. That's why he is too closely tied emotionally, not logically. And that's from Boxy Punk Chick. So I think a lot of this is right. Barnes has been doing that. Viva Fry has been doing that. But I think more than anything, when you watch a lot of these law shows, which I do. I sit here at work and sometimes I do it and then I'm like, I don't want to hear any more of this. It depends on what the topic is. But Barnes is more of a political commentator, I would say, than a legal analyst. Okay, he does the legal analysis, but it's always in kind of in the background is how he believes politics to be, and that relies on this. So this one, right, perfectly fine. Like I'm a libertarian for the most part. And I'm not a fan of a lot of different laws that are out there keeping us down. I did a breakdown of Bruin and the illegal alien that had the gun and why that was, I think, a correct ruling. And you could go break down a lot of these different things. And I don't believe, by the way, incorporation, which would give a lot more freedom to everyone as well. Granted, but I understand where the law is now and not how I wish it to be. I will talk about how I wish it to be, but then you have to live in reality. And Barnes mixes those two, and he does it in a way that I think is disingenuous if you're trying to get, because he's got a lot of influence. He talks about the Trump stuff, and then Trump has some of the most horrible attorneys out there doing exactly kind of what Barnes is telling him. And so that goes over and over. And so what does it do for Barnes and Viva in this situation to push a narrative that's so obviously wrong? I mean, we can say Nick's a piece of shit, and what he's doing here, it sounds like, due process, we'll get there. It sounds like he's a piece of shit. But we can also say, I don't want drug charges, I don't want gun charges. I could be pushing back to that. But how's that going to help Nick now? The best thing you could probably do for Nick is give him a good idea of how this is likely to come out, not tell him to fight up to the Supreme Court and everything, and next thing you know, he's got no money, his kids are gone. The best possible outcome he can do is to get to his kids first, which is probably a plea deal at some point, okay? I missed a bunch of comments here, so let's look at this. Look at your other YouTube parents that presented like your family next door. We're starting to see pass the manufactured clean corner. PSA. Avoid Ozempic at all costs. It's been known to cause gastroparesis. Very possible. Okay. What else we got here? I've heard it said that Barnes just wants to make a ton of noise and get attention whenever he wants to get hired for a high-profile case like he did with Rittenhouse. Right, he did get hired with Rittenhouse, but he didn't get hired for Rittenhouse for continuing. I tend to think, I'm trying to remember back in there, that he was fired. There were issues, and perhaps rightly so. Libertarian, I don't use that term anymore. It's retarded. You used a big L, but you started the sentence with the capital. I don't know what to do about that. I don't, by the way, I think it's hilarious. And I remember that weirdo Andrew guy, I think it was in our intro. It was doing the post, he was all about the GOP Mises stuff. And, he basically wanted to take over like the GOP type of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not going back to the GOP. They're so retarded. So that's more retarded than what it is. I don't know what I call myself, but I'm still fine with that. At least none of the drugs shell in the children common areas. Still no respect for these pieces of shit. Contrarian takes maybe his way of getting attention. So I just want to say about this. This person is so right about the law isn't black and white. You look at Hassness, the myth of the rule of law, and we talk about that in law all the time. There's two sides of the story. That's why you're coming out here. Not everything is always black and white. So you try to persuade, try to knock things down. I appreciate Barnes and Viva going that route, outlining all the different issues that can be happening, but you're not doing what the problem is then when you say these are possible issues, and then when you see facts coming out that are entirely against it, and Viva yesterday saying the kids never said any of this stuff, and he's, by the way, this is the problem, because we're going to go through a supplemental report where the kids specifically, and by the way, there's body cam footage, it sounds like everywhere, so we're going to at some point see all this. Nick's freaking out, and we're going to be able to see if it's Tyler's 100%, of course. Hey, Trump's attorneys may be horrible, but they're hot. Right. Okay. Libertarian quotes includes anarchist and statist. It's functionally useless. ANCAP works for me. Look, that's pretty much what I say I am, and then you have problems. Nick jacking off on camera was just a cry for help. When I saw the Nick, what kind of cry is that? When I saw him doing that, I saw that happen, and I started to watch it, and I stopped it, and I did bookmark it because I wanted to come back to it later, and I didn't watch it fully until I presented it because it bothered me. It bothered me, and I thought of a few things. I'm like, I don't know if you'd have to watch more of the stream to see if you showed him coming in. Did he have pants on? Was it just him, he's so out of it, but he was so out of it. It was disturbing, and I would be embarrassed to be doing that kind of stuff online. I mean, I help with the Tower Gang, and yet that would be embarrassing to me. You know what's interesting too about that, which is those guys, they're all joking, all seem, there's claims by like Kareem and Jeremy and all these other guys are such degenerates, but yet out of back DMs and stuff, and when you've met these people, nice, good people. Okay, I know they do some stupid shit, but I think they would do a lot for you, and just like our friend Andy and a lot of you guys here in the chat. Okay, let's keep going here because I wanted to finish this off, and then I do have work to do, but that's literally how mandatory reporting works. A kid tells you something, you're required to tell authorities. A kid telling you something you're required to report is literally the basis for said report. True. I don't know if he was Kurt Bradwell was coming out with me, but I mean, I think he's going out Viva Fry on that, because Viva, that's exactly what it is. We can have problems with mandated reporting laws, which I do have a problem with at some point. But once again, then you got to have another authority that kind of looks at that. I saw you in the comment on Legal Mindset stream, so I was curious to come check you out. As a little L libertarian, love learning actual law. This is the type of content Nick used to do years ago, and I just said, yeah, thanks for having us. Oh, Mises Kakas, fuck yeah. Ron Paul Libertarian here too, love Mises. Yeah, so thanks for OTY Sass Fury. Oops, there we go. Oh, now I just messed up. Easy there. Okay, Barnes. Okay, let's go back to the comments. By the way, these things suck because you gotta have the chat pop in so you can actually delete it, and then it'll expand it out a little bit. Let's see what else here. LMFAO, all these lawyers with locals accounts are Qaeda wannabes dancing on his graves. You act like Nick created locals are their best, biggest create. That by the way, that was blacklisted 4885. Should I give him a heart? No, I don't really care. And then this person replies, you act like Nick created locals or was the biggest creator. It's a conservative libertarian ran social media website alternative to Patreon. Are you one of the local wine ant? Okay, so this person is just whatever. But one I wanted to get here was this one. David Freehite is a lawyer from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which is Viva Fry. He only knows their rules. However, he is a good lawyer in that territory. Barnes is a complete. Now, I don't know how you know that he's a good lawyer because he's just online. And let's see if there's any proof of like cases that you've referenced in your. Barnes is a complete. Now, I shouldn't say that because I'm an attorney and you don't know the cases that I do, but I am a good one. However, and it's because my hourly rate. However, David is really a good Canadian hero. He showed up the trucker protest in Canada, and that is why I really like. Yes, he did that. That was very easy to do though, because your guy up there is a piece of shit. Here's one of the problems. None of them are lawyers in the state of Minnesota. Number one, they're a person who's going on trial, has a severe court case, and might not get off that easy. This is why other lawyers are not understanding the situation. It is my personal belief that Nick will get up to 10 years in prison as the same as his wife due to the drugs in the house and the children making a complaint to one of the ministers in their church and one of the teachers of their homeschool, and the allegations court case due to the children's allegations of alcohol abuse and drug use and 20 more things on the list. And I tell everything, if you have children, take responsibility, don't drink, don't do drugs. It's just going to get you in trouble, and I don't wish anyone luck except the kids. This guy, Vander Rinnen, replies, Freehide is usually great at asking good questions because he has enough of a clue to understand what things are at issue law. He is normally pretty open about his bias when it comes up. Look, I don't have a problem with that, actually, and that you're right, that has been some of the case, but he's been really weird. Like, he had Dave Smith on the show, he had Scott Horton, he seems okay, and then he blasts them outwardly later. He just try to do a takedown thing of Dave that was completely out of context and stupid, and that's part of the thing. It's hard to believe that they just lie about the affidavit, won't be subscribing to them. Well, good. Barnes lost respect for me when he started working with InfoWars. Yes, he did broadcasting of conspiracy theories. I think you should talk to Nate the lawyer. I would love to talk to Nate the lawyer, and actually Nate is one that he has a lot of documents for Nick's case. I think Nate the lawyer has actually done great work, and especially on the affidavit stuff, and that was one that specifically was blasted by Barnes yesterday. So let's look at this. This is the bail. Nick's got cash bail. Here's the deal. You have two options. Unconditional release. Dependent shall post a bond in the amount of $50,000 or cash only in the amount of $50,000. Or, and these are all these things that the defendant can do. Conditional release. Defendant shall be released of his or her personal recognizance. Person shall not leave the state. Defendant shall not possess or consume alcoholic beverages, mood-altering drugs prescribed by da-da-da-da. Defendant shall call probation, and immediately these proceedings and weekly thereafter. Defendant shall not use possession of firearms, dangerous weapons, ammunition, explosives, blah, blah, blah. Or defendant shall be held pending next trial hearing. And I think there was shall not possess drugs and be subject to random drug testing. What's interesting about and why I bring this up is because Nick did, he made bail. So he put up $50,000, and we'll pull this one up here. $50,000 bail, cash bail, which this is really what cash bail means. Let's see if I could find it here. Which means I only had to probably pay $5,000. They get to keep that, and then he's got to return to court. Here's the appearance, the bail. This was part of the court case here. Power of attorney, limited power of attorney over to the bondsman. They could come after you, blah, blah, blah. You've got, see here it is, $5,000 cost premium for the bond amount. And if he fails to show up, and they do have some specific requirements that you have then deal with the bond agent themselves. But the key aspect of this is he put up this, he doesn't have all those conditions I just read. His wife did not, and she does have conditions. So Nick himself could be out there snorting, drinking still. At least he's not going to be drug tested according to this. He may have something with the kids and the CPS, which we'll talk about, but that's one of the provisions. But his wife is under that. And that makes me wonder. It makes me, after we saw how bad Nick was, maybe the wife wasn't as bad as Nick. Although, man, she's home all day. They're both home. And the house was described the way it was. The kids were described the way it was. I imagine she's maybe just as bad. But I'm just thinking, maybe they're like, look, Nick, he's not going to be able to come off this, so he's going to have to do some snorting. And he's maybe having to do some drinking. So we're going to get the cash bail for him. She's going to be under this, and I think she can actually do it. You know what? One thing we don't do here, Rumble chat doesn't come through. But imagine Northside, and I finally have it up because I missed a bunch. Imagine Nick gets chased down by the dog, the bounty hunter. That'd be good. Josh Smith, is this the actual Josh Smith? Yo, Tyler, just saw you were streaming. Can you go back to the beginning? You go back to the beginning, okay? Andy says most of the help is just rehab, networking, drug addicts. That's true. This isn't live. You started at the beginning. Josh, if this is this our buddy, actual Josh? I think it is. It's not Josh's 1,000 friends or whatever. By the way, sorry about your convention issue, not getting picked there. I know that was a horrible outcome. I will say this, Josh, that I was not able to make it, but I had a graduation, I had a wedding, and I have another one. So that was my thing, put family over that. Good luck to you going forward. And hey, if you ever want to have me on the show, talk about this kind of stuff, we can totally do that. Okay. Oh, no, this is Josh's mini children. Well, go fuck yourself. Okay, let's take a look here. What I wanted to bring up, and I tried to find this in as much as I can, and I'm concerned about posting it because it's, putting it up because it's not all redacted, and it's only like screenshots. Now, I saw some of these other people, because we worked through some stuff yesterday, and I think I read one of these, but not all of them. So I wanted to go through some additional details that were released. And what we had, remember, we had the first just kind of an affidavit of the arrest. Then we had the details to get the search warrant. Now we've got basically supplemental details which outline how that warrant came about and the incidents of arrest, okay? Those are more telling and more damning. And the best part about them, they talk about evidence, digital evidence, body cam footage. And Nick Rekieta is out there saying all kinds of stuff. It's a lie. It's a da-da-da-da-da. And, that's part of the problem. Yeah, you can still accept Tyler's apology, Josh. Yeah, I do accept his apology, but not for supporting my POTUS. Did you mention the duty to report on the show, on the first show on this? I don't know. I probably not. There's a lot of things I'm just trying to get through a lot of this. You watch some of these other ones and they'll break every little thing down, and I think that's great work. There is a duty to report. So what do you do as a mandated reporter if you don't report? That we can talk about CPS stuff, which is had these situations, two two parents had they're not divorced. There's no filings yet, but one decides to, or the CPS get involved because dad was beating mom. Okay, that's the situation I had. Dad did something to mom. CPS gets involved. The cops get involved, and now Child Welfare Services actually comes to mom and they go, "Dad's still living in the house. If you don't do something, we are going to take the kids away from you as well because now you're being negligent as a parent." And this is what the problem here is with Kayla and Nick, which is neither one of them stood up to be a parent. Matter of fact, the kids were squealing on them. So if you don't do something, we are going to take both kids away. And, CPS could have done that in this case. Well, they did. They arrested them, then they took the kids, presumably. But you have much like that as a parent, you have you can be negligent, your own abuse of the kids if you're not removing them from a dangerous situation that you know is dangerous and you're complaining about this dangerous. So if you're not doing that yourself, you can have an issue against you. It's a mandatory reporter. We may not like the law. I've heard people talk, and Barnes said this. I tell people don't go to counseling because counseling is different. Counseling is a different situation than, and I don't know, maybe counselors are mandated reporters, but typically like a hospital. You go into a hospital, there's a bruise, you're going to talk to, that could be a bad situation. So I understand that. But those people are mandated to report it up. And then, a lot of times it's just out of their purview. So no, I didn't really mention that, Andy, but yes, they do have a duty to report. And you've put them into a situation, or they've put themselves into, so who knows? Tyler is my favorite law tuber now. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough for everybody, but I appreciate that. Okay, let's get back out to this report. This one is redacted, so this will at least be a little bit more helpful. And I don't know if you can really see it there, but it's not really if you can, you can, but I will try to read this off. This was a detailed report, kind of an additional thing to the affidavit of the search warrant. And then I'm going to go take you into details, but I think there's some important parts here. On 5/16 at approximately 08:39, I, Sergeant David Nestor, remember the other one was Pompe or something. I will talk about that. This is a different officer, Sergeant. County Sheriff's Office was asked to stop into the office to take a mandatory reporting call from an individual who wished to remain anonymous, but was mandated to report. His name, that's probably the pastor, who was a pastor with the Evangelical Church. And I mean, we cross out his name, but then I don't know about all this stuff about trying to be anonymous. He is the pastor to the family of 5 children. The family, he received reported information of neglect of Nicholas Requeda and his wife Kayla Requeda and their children, and lists the children's name. The children reside with their mother and father at Spicer, Minnesota. Now it's not Mellon, the pastor, advised that the Requedas had a live-in nanny for approximately 45 years. We did talk about some of this the other day, but there's additional details here because this is a different officer who recently left Requeda and began working for another family within the church. See, this is the problem. That nanny leaves, she's probably telling other people in this church things that happen. Now, if they come and report to her, that's obviously hearsay on their side, and then hearsay to that one. But they're going to have to get the nanny. She is one that could actually testify to, and maybe they'll kill her because they don't want her to testify. I got to make sure this chat is taken care of over here on Rumble. Northside, California, 707 said, thoughts on Barnes' constitutional defense of Requeda? Seems like a loser to me. Sorry if you already covered it. Sorry, honey. My wife's trying to FaceTime right now. I'm busy, lady. He brought up a lot of constitutional issues that you want to bring up, okay? But some of those are issues that it's not going to help Nick get to the bottom of this, not going to get his kids back. First Amendment, I don't know if there's really a First Amendment other than your right to be a parent, which kind of involves in there, okay? Second Amendment, gun charge, which was associated. Yeah, you can push back about that, but I think that's maybe something you do later, maybe with Bruin and whatnot. Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. It looked like the warrant was valid. Fifth Amendment, which was due process, and that is really like the parental substantive due process and the rights as a parent. Okay, but I don't know. They took the kids. It seemed like a valid thing to do. We'll get further in that. Sixth Amendment, Eighth Amendment of unlawful bail, and I don't know. I just don't. There's a lot of they don't really work. Matter of fact, you're not going to hold yourself to those. It doesn't mean that you can't bring those as an attorney. You're going to bring all aspects that you want to on this. I just don't think those are going to hold. And honestly, I don't know if you've got Barnes as your attorney and he's like, look, we've got 5, 6, 7 different constitutional claims. We're going to take this on. And Nick's like, yeah, let's do that. And then they're all easily withheld because this is how case law is. You're not going to make any new groundbreaking constitutional arguments. The court's not going to, Ricada v. Minnesota, that's the case that really did it for us on constitutional rights for whatever. It's not going to happen. So you're just trudging along, and what you're doing then is you're enabling Nick to continue. I saw this I started to go bike racing, but guys that in the Lance era, after Lance, there was this guy named Floyd Landis. He wins a tour. There's a drug charge against him, or that he tested positive, and he fought it. And he had, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. Well, then he later admits, yeah, I was guilty. But he's in his mind, it's this is what you do. You just got to profess your innocence and you push it. And it really drove him almost mental. Okay. Nice mug, homo. This one says the boss on it, and it's just one that we have at the office. I have another one over here. It's a Tour de France one, but it's a big mug, and I need a big cup of coffee. So that's why, Andy. Tyler, when you get here, no swinging and cocaine, at least not more than one night. That's next week. Barnes' defense may work if the charges were separate, but this is going to be a family law issue as well, correct? No. This is a criminal issue. It's going to expand into, and by the way, it's not necessarily family law because it's not the family fighting against each other unless they get divorced. So you're not really going to have that issue of Nick versus his wife, and that's where the family court is coming involved. This is a criminal aspect. Family's involved, and now you're going to have probably child welfare services and or CPS involved. And what CPS is going to do, just talked about Nick on bail, he's going to be able to come back. I don't know if they're going to allow the kids back in there. Likely CPS has put the children with the family. Remember, sister reported him, for Pete's sake. Kids are going to go elsewhere, and they would probably have a safety action plan that both Kayla and Nick would have to sign and try to obey, and CPS is going to come in all the time. This is the problem. You've been arrested. You've had these things happen. Now the state's involved in your life, but it's not an antagonistic family law situation. It's maybe them against juvenile court, where the court's wanting to we have that often if the parents are combined and the state's trying to determine what it is. They may place them with foster care or family to be, and I think that's the way to go, family, assuming I think it's with grandparents. But it's not going to be necessarily a family law issue because this is a criminal issue at this point. Okay, Steve says, dang, is this the probable cause? Nick got a problem. It's not just one party with the theory that someone had to out him for. There's going to be some conditions that need to be met before custodial rights restored. Yes, likely. Okay, so Steve, you mentioned here, I think what you're saying, I did, if you go back to the last two videos, last one is all about the probable cause. Probable cause, we break down what the standard is for probable cause for a search warrant, and then how likely is it that this is going to uphold. This probable cause is just evidence that's likely to relate to finding criminal activity or crime in progress. That's all that standard is. When you get to court, now you've got to bring, if it's hearsay, if it's the pastor as an example, and does he have any personal knowledge? No, then he's not going to be the person that's going to testify. It's going to be the nanny. It's going to be the sister. It's going to be the daycare worker. It's going to be possibly the kids. There are hearsay exceptions, which could be kids talking to a a counselor or something else, investigator, social worker. Okay, let me get back into some of this here. Okay, and his wife, the children reside with their father. Okay, who left recently, indicated working for another family. That's the babysitter. This is the first flag for the individuals who reported to that something was wrong with the Ricada family. So she moves, she starts working for another family within the church. That's what I was saying. She's probably telling them, holy shit, these people are out of control. And who knows why she quit. Did she quit? Did they fire her? Was it mutual? I've been here for about 4 or 5 years. That's a long time. That's that 16-year-old going from 12 to 16. It's the 5-year-old going, 1 or 2 up until or birth until where they currently are. That's a long time to be in a family, and probably saw the metamorphosis take place extremely there. Mellon advised that Bitson, that's the nanny, does not know that this report has been made. Interesting. A total of 4 anonymous people have made contact with Mellon and advised of the following information. 1. Nicholas and Kayla Ricada have 2 homes within the property. A family who had been staying in the one home renting were asked to leave recently, and nobody is occupying the residence. That could be significant, only because why were they asked to leave? Maybe they were complaining about the drug use or the way that they were the kids, and they're like, get the fuck out of here. Nick and Kayla have formed a newer relationship with Aaron and April Imholte. I was advised that Aaron and Nicholas do some type of blogging or a YouTube show together. The pastor was advised that Imholte's move in with the Ricadas as well. Now, who knows what that could be absolutely nothing, but if they're living there, and then if they're all living in the same bedroom together, you may have some problems there. I mean, think about it. It's not just a 5-year-old that may not understand. You've got a 16-year-old, I think it's a boy, 16, 17-year-old boy living in the house, watching your father and mother, but let's just say father and or let's do one. Assume it's a boy, and you're watching your father do this. Yikes. Now it's a 16-year-old girl watching your father or watching your mother do this. What are those kids? It blows me away. I'm just like, it's not illegal. Some of it was, but just living that lifestyle and you're like so out there with the kids is just like, man, that's some trash behavior. And, teach their own, but don't let your daughter date that kid at some point. The house is in disarray with clothes and other cluster items everywhere. Remember, Barnes and Viva Fry, when they first saw this, they're like, "Oh, what a dirty house!" And Viva's like, Barnes is like, "Well, what? I could be arrested every day because of that." And it's like, okay, I don't think it's. By the way, it's everything in context, right? It's a house. It's a 5,000 square foot house. You've got 5 kids, 2 adults. Now you got more moving in. They don't work. They live at home. They don't have jobs they're going to. Dust, clutter everywhere. I doubt that was the case before you started to do this. I think that's why it's the case. It's not like their house has always been cluttered, right? If it hasn't always been cluttered, this isn't going to be a detail that someone's reporting. A babysitter is reporting. Okay, that's where we want to go. The house is in disarray. The children are 2 boys and 3 girls. They have been noted to have been wearing the same clothing for 3 to 4 days, with their clothing in disarray and starting to smell solid there. The preschool teacher at the church is advised that the younger children have advised her that they are hungry, not being fed. That's not just I'm hungry. It's not being fed, and also made comment about the clothing. So once again, this is just more detail of what we saw yesterday. The kids are saying, and they're not going to school saying, I didn't get a sack lunch today. Sorry. 5 kids. It's a lot I have 4, and it's a lot sometimes to try to get ready. And you push as soon as possible when these kids start getting older. You're fucking making your own food. And the girls were great at making their own lunch all the time. But you got this. But they're saying, I'm not being fed. It actually kind of just breaks my heart. I mean, there's been times where after I divorced, living in a crappy apartment, going to law school and doing this, and I'm like, I remember it's like, we had the kids week on and week off, and I was like mixed in the week there. But anyway, I had them, 50%. And by the way, got along great with my ex-wife, but the kids are coming over, and I remember I was like, I got to go to the store. I got to buy food for all of us and their lunches. And you look at your bank account and you're like, well, I could get that and I could get that. Those are what you do, though. Nick's not got those problems. So, just it blows me away that's what you'd have. The preschool teacher, okay, we said that the anonymous party advised that they do not believe that the children born in 2012 and 2015 are being homeschooled, while the other older boys do attend school at Wilmar Community Christian School. Odd, which is basically what they're saying is these kids aren't going to school. They're staying home. They're not going to school. That's a 12-year-old and about an 8-year-old or so. Yikes. Or 9. All information that is regarding the church Ricada family has now gone to block. The response is not attainable from Nick or The response is not, I don't know. I guess they had tried to respond to them. The anonymous person advised that they observed Nick being lethargic, appeared to be high or drugged, driving a car around. Another anonymous person advised that Nick will walk out randomly during sermons. Okay, we talked about that yesterday. Anonymous person advised that they have noticed behavior changes in both Nick and Kayla, and also appearing to be anorexic, which could be, showing use of drugs. That's kind of a pattern there. Nicholas to have lost a substantial amount of weight. I remember a show not too long, I think it was when he was doing this, because I had stopped watching, and it was actually around the time he did the Eric July stuff, which I thought was great. He pushing on Eric, but then he had Masterson on, and that guy's just kind of a creep, and he was just too buddy, and I was like, it was gross. And then Nick's trying to defend himself about losing weight because people had said that, and I'm like, look, I sided with him at the time. I didn't know all the details. He seemed like he was doing. He wasn't hammered, but people were complaining about that. And I'm like, this is me, someone who used to be super skinny, and then I gained a little weight, and you try to be super skinny. And I mean, like, an adult 6 foot, 145 pounds, but it was due to the fact that I was racing my bike at a very, very high level. So that's just a different kind of thing. But, I went from a person who's so skinny that it's embarrassing to have your shirt off on the beach to a little chubby where you're embarrassed to have your shirt off at the beach. You gotta put it in the middle here. Okay. Do we have anything else here? Garbage Man will advise his kids that they just should have grifted harder if they wanted to eat and have clean clothes. That's pretty true. Shannon says, I feel bad for my kids miss a snack and these MFers are starving their kids. Yeah. Starving kids is just so they can party is shameful. And then Philip said, Tyler went from meth bod to dad bod. Fuck yeah. I'm trying to get back to the meth side though. Just throwing that out there. Let me also just say one other thing. It had to do with I remember a time, you have split families, kids are with me, they're with their mom, and we always did as much as we could because it's never the kid's fault that this situation happened. And so the kids would be with me. My kids went to a private school, which was like in between where her mom and I lived, which was, 30 minutes or so apart. And so there were times where they would come from one family to the other and maybe forget something. And a normal child, I say normal, without a split family, you go to school, you forgot something, and you just come home the next day and it's there. So, I would go out of my way to make sure I would do the travel. I would go over, get stuff. I remember one time I forgot the lunch, or my daughter did. She called me, and I took my lunch to her at school so that she could have it. Hang on, I got it. All right. Northside over here says, this seems most likely Aaron's fault. He was supposed to be cleaning the house and caring for the kids while Nick was pimping the women down. Counselor trying to look like he is from Martinez. Oh, geez. Excuse me. Okay. Let's get back into this a little bit more so I could get back to doing my job here and stop playing around on the internet. Behavioral changes advise that they believe the multis are possibly assisting with some type of drug use. Blogging views and subscribers are down, possibly resulting in financial issues. Interesting. I don't know what that has to do, but damn. An anonymous person also advised at one point Nick and Kayla left the multis to go to a casino, leaving the children alone, putting the oldest son, who was born in 2007, in charge. Was unsure if this was suitable or not. Advised that nobody told him anything other than about the neglect or drug use. There was 0 reports of any physical or sexual abuse, and the kids were not in immediate harm at the end of the. Okay, so a few quick comments there. Damn it. Which is leaving your kids and going somewhere and a 16, 17-year-old's in charge. I think that's perfectly fine. You get babysitters much younger than that. Leaving your oldest in charge sounds perfectly fine to me. I don't care what the fuck you're doing. That's much better than leaving the kids, not having an older child there. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. And the last one said, and there wasn't any immediate danger because people were talking about why was this taken care of earlier? Where was they're supposed to, should have gone in there with CPS and whatnot. Well, it doesn't sound like it was actually necessary. Okay, let's go through some of these other docs. I have 2 or 3 left here, and then we will be out. If my voice can handle it. I don't know what the deal is. I just hate when this shit happens. Drink a little more. Okay. Let's go to some other comments here. When I did triathlons, I was in great shape, but kept some extra pounds for fuel. Okay. I caught a few minutes, and we'll talk about that. I caught a few minutes of Sean's stream last night, and he saw pictures from the house, and it looked like a bomb went off inside the house before the raid. I imagine you're talking about Sean, potentially criminal. I'll have to check that out. I hear you. Been 6 foot tall, 135 in my adult life. God damn, till I hit 35, immediately gained 30 pounds. That's not what happened to me. But I'll tell you what. Do you think wife and Nick will enable each other and do this again? That's a really good question. I heard cum isn't the best for having to try water instead. Okay. Let's go to these all. I don't know what my deal is here. Possibly they could, Nandy. They could enable themselves. That's the problem. Neither one. They enabled themselves getting here, and that's the problem. You usually have one party not doing this, and therefore, controlling the other, or at least you gotta have a sounding board, right, or someone that kind of keeps you in line. And they decided to go down this route together. So yeah, I'm glad you did triathlons. So I was still doing bike riding up until I'm still doing it. Problem is, I had a bad bike wreck, 2-3 years ago. Broke my neck and my back. Kind of put me out of commission for a while, as you can imagine. I ate and drank like I was still riding. Now, I don't drink to excess, but if you have a hazy here and there, it's like a loaf of bread. And next thing you know, you go from someone who was 155 to 190, and now you're trying to work your way back in. And that's what I'm trying to do. So there you go. Okay. Let's read this one. And now this one's... Do I want to do this because it's not redacted? So tell you what, I'm going to let's see if I can put it so small on the screen that you guys maybe can't read it. This stuff is all out there. I, Detective Quinn Pomplin, have made aware of Sergeant Dave Nestor of a family services report from a mandated reporter regarding Nick and Kayla. I reviewed Sergeant Nestor's initial report. I was reviewing further information in relation to this investigation. After reviewing that information, I applied for a search warrant. Residents as well as search of Nick located for the information in relation to the follow-up investigation and information. Please refer to the search warrant. It was arranged that on 5/23, deputies would meet a predetermined location and eventually travel to the house in Spicer to execute the search warrant. We traveled to the area while almost to the residence, we observed a black-colored Lincoln vehicle with Nicholas in the driver's seat traveling southbound. As we were traveling northbound, Sergeant Nestor was advised to stop Nick and detain him for part of the search warrant, and his person was to be searched. While Sergeant Nestor did, the rest of the above aforementioned officers then continued traveling to Nick's house to execute the search warrant, and we arrived at 9:13 hours. Okay. Kent Bauman stayed and went to the traffic stop with Sergeant Nestor. So there's Sergeant Nestor, there's Sergeant Bauman. They are both going to the traffic stop. When we arrived on scene, we started knocking on the door on the south side of the residence and were able to gain a response from a young female juvenile from within the residence who advised that her dad advised her not to open the door for strangers. Solid work there. We knocked for several moments, indicating we were law enforcement and trying to speak to the juveniles to come to the door for us. We noted that there was a keypad on the door and attempted to make radio contact with Chief Deputy Bauman or Sergeant Nestor. When I overheard radio communication from Sergeant Nestor advising that Nicholas was not going to give us the door code to open the door. This was after several moments and an appropriate time for an adult to make it to the door, at which time Detective Ardoff, utilizing a ram, opened the door, causing minimal damage. Gonna talk about that real quick. We talked about that the first time. That was my first initial reaction of why Nick in this, everything is a piece of shit, okay? Which is, the warrant's gonna happen. They're going to go to your house. I love that you advised your child. I tell that my wife listens to too many crime podcasts, tells the kids all the time, don't talk to the cops, get an attorney, blah, 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 blah. The child did the right thing. The child and the wife seem to be a little bit smarter. The wife, not as much. Why is the adult not coming to the door? The police are at your house. Why is the wife not coming to the door and say, get a warrant? And they'd be like, oh, I have a warrant. That didn't happen. They stop Nick, and we're going to talk about the Nick part. They advise him they're going to get in the house. What's the code? We have a warrant. He won't give it, which we talked about. Now you're going to have police busting down the door, coming in there to the house rather than, and who knows what kind of, we've seen Waco, right? I mean, this is an extreme situation, Ruby Ridge, where we've seen all kinds of, Breonna Taylor, where the police will then come in and maybe be trigger happy. I don't know. Maybe the kids, there's guns in the house, for Pete's sake, loose. Who knows what the situation is? Nick decided this was not an important part. Minimal damage to the door. While making entry into the residence, I observed Sergeant Swanson was standing in the kitchen and was making commands for someone to walk towards him. I was holding on the stairway in the downstairs and observed two females come from a hallway in the northern part of the residence, towards Sergeant Swanson. They were detained and brought outside. There were two children located on the upstairs floor. We were advised that the one child downstairs. The other female was detained. It was April Imholt. They moved outside and eventually, while making loud comments into the basement from the top stairs, I observed a juvenile male walk out. I advised him to walk up the stairs. While he complied, went out and stood with his mother. I'll give the police this kind of thing, which is it doesn't appear that they went in guns blazing. They understood there were children in the house, and none of this seems to be a situation where they aggravated a response. In other words, they didn't expect to have pushback, and they did. So it was a peaceful exchange. But why does the door have to get banged down, right? That's, to me, it's traumatic for the kids. I continued searching the residence. We located another juvenile female in the basement who was apparently sleeping. I advised her to walk to her mom. She agreed. She held my hand. Oh, that's kind of heartbreaking. As we walked outside, 4 children were placed outside with the mother as well as April. The children located in the residence were I advised Sergeant Nestor and Chief Deputy that we were going to have Nicholas travel back to the residence as we executed the search warrant. Okay. There's one aspect I hope is in one of these ones, because I read it prior and I saw it on another stream, and I want to see if I get to it, but I don't know if it's here because, by the way, people are just putting screenshots out rather than actually putting out the PDF, which is somewhat difficult. God damn it. Me and this... Okay. Continued clearing the residence and were able to have the residence secured. The residence was extremely cluttered. There were clothes everywhere, dirty dishes, dust, and overall dirty home. I overheard Nick arguing with Chief Bauman in front of the house, demanding that he receive a copy of the search warrant, at which time I handed him a copy of the search warrant. I saw him look at it and eventually throw it on the which I believe is probably totally accurate. The house was very large, 5,000 square feet. Nice. We started searching the master bedroom, where almost immediately Sergeant Brannis located a snort tube and a black vial on top of the 2 credit cards. Those items are listed above. The snort tube tested positive for coke. Inside the black tube was a noticeable amount of white powdery substance, which also field tested positive for cocaine. Nick, this is the problem. You're not clearing that shit out. You're getting pulled over by the cops. Call the wife. Dump it all. But even the wives, the guys are knocking on the door of the police. Get rid of that shit. Oh no, they're probably fucking high as a kite already. Around that time, I went outside, spoke to Nick. I requested him to speak with me. I advised him of his Miranda warning. He agreed to speak with me and waived his right to counsel. This seems a lot of hubris involved with this young man, and I say young because he's younger than me. Stupidity, and maybe something he advised his daughter. His daughter didn't open the door. That's perfectly fine. His wife doesn't talk to the cops. He's going to talk to the cops. And by the way, maybe does not help his situation, which we'll get here. I requested to speak to him. He waived his Miranda rights. He explained to me that he may not answer certain questions. All right. This conversation was recorded on my body camera. During the conversation with Nicholas, he advised that he sleeps in the master bedroom with his wife, Kayla, and that April was just visiting on this date. This is a general overview of our conversation. Now, there's later on, I don't know if it's in this one, but the wife says complete opposite, that that Brittany girl or whatever, she's not the daycare or the nanny anymore. April's the nanny, and she lives here with us. The problem is, Nick's saying this, which helps get April off, because the charges were dropped because that wasn't her house, and you've got constructive possession, even if it is your house. But now you don't get a say as Nick. No, that was April's shit. It was her credit cards. It was her stuff. It's in your master bedroom. So he's kind of screwed, but he shouldn't have said anything. You could at least give yourself some outs there. At the time, we determined Nick and April and Kayla would all be placed under arrest and transported to the jail. Deputies as well as State Trooper Josh Monson. While placing Nick in the State Trooper squad, I observed several injuries on his arm and photographed them. They appeared to be sores, common with controlled substance users. That brown stuff we talked about yesterday was not determined to be anything positive for field test. But who knows? Maybe he was doing heroin anyway. Alicia Sweep was contacted Family Services and eventually came to the scene to assist with placing the kids with their grandparents. There you go. During this time, Detective Oakleaf advised me that she spoke with Kayla regarding giving a statement, and Kayla advised that she wanted to have an attorney. Finally, a smart person. So she probably wasn't hammered at the time. Detective Brainus attempted to take a statement from April after reading her Miranda. She indicated she wanted an attorney. Everyone but the attorney is smart here. Well, at least in this aspect. Deputies continued to search the residence and above listed physical evidence and located and taken into custody. Arrangements were made to go to the grandparents to go and secure the residence. We were able to close the door and documented the damage to the door. All officers left the scene at 11:05. I traveled back to law enforcement center where above listed evidence was processed and placed into county evidence system. I went to the jail, requested Nick to speak with me. He indicated he was willing to do so. I brought him an interview room. He again read his Miranda warning. He agreed to speak and waived his right to counsel. During this conversation, that's just a cocky asshole. During this conversation, he refused to answer any questions regarding any cocaine. Well, okay, there you go. Use or any controlled substance. He advised me that he resides at the residence, stays in the master bedroom, and his wife Kayla when he sleeps. He indicated that April was just a friend and was visiting and that does not live at the residence. He explained he is extremely stressed out in regards to his 5 kids and their extra activities. Please see audio recording for further details. I advised that after this interview that Alicia Sweep had contacted Kayla requesting if their live-in Nandy Cheney would be able to assist with anything at the residence. Sweep was advised by Kayla that technically April Imalte was their live-in nanny. There you go. So those two have now. I provided Nick a copy of the law enforcement hold for each of their children. It was placed with the jail. Okay. Still one aspect I'm not seeing in this report, and I did see it previously, so I'm hoping it's in this one here. Let's go to this. I think this is like the last page we'll do. And then we'll get some of your questions, comments, concerns. Once again, it's not redacted, so a little suspect, but we'll just have it small here. Digital evidence, body cam. This is Officer Nestor. Remember, he stopped Nick, assisted in drug search. While en route to search, I advised Detective Pumplin that to stop a motor vehicle, that the person interested regarding the search warrant was Nick. He was driving a black Lincoln. I stopped the vehicle. I'm skipping some of the little details here. I'm just kind of getting to the meat. You guys can find this online yourself. The driver was identified as Nicholas Ricada. I advised Nicholas about the warrant and the search of his person. At the time, Chief Deputy Baumann was with me. Nicholas was advised that the warrant was signed by a judge. His response was, that doesn't mean shit. Well, it actually does. It means a lot of shit, because if it's not signed by a judge, it's not valid. And wanted probable cause for the warrant. You don't get to have that at that point. You don't get to do roadside law. While conversing with this topic, Detective Pumplin was asked for the DAR code, and they did not have, so they wouldn't have to breach the residence. Nicholas advised me that he was not giving me shit, as he hadn't seen the warrant. I advised Detective Pumplin we did not get a door code. Okay, so Nick didn't, in his defense, he didn't have a warrant. He wasn't going to give them this, but they said they did have a warrant. He could have, who knows? Well, they had to. There is an exigent circumstance. They're breaking down the house so you don't destroy the drugs. There's always that concern. So that's why they were going in there. Okay, I checked Nicholas' person. He was wearing flip-flops, t-shirt. He had ID, credit card, wallet. At the time, he went back to his vehicle, which had his daughter. We won't show her name there. She was in the passenger, presumably taking her to school. We went back to the residence, and I assisted at the scene, standing near Nick and Kayla and April and his children, while assisting to keep the children occupied outside the residence. when asked about, here you go. This is the part I was talking about. One of the children, when asked about getting clothes, wanted new clothes. She made reference to the fact she had been wearing those clothes more than that day. I asked to transport Kayla to the jail. I advised that she had been placed under arrest. I placed restraints in front of her, tightness check, da 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 da. That's the end of report, and we're pretty much done with that. So that's the kind of the one there, which is these kids. This is where we get the credibility of the statements, kind of tying it in together, where they're telling the pastor, they're telling other people, they're telling their school teachers at least. I've been wearing the same clothes. Now, kids could usually go change their clothes themselves, but for some reason this is happening, and she seemed perturbed by it, right? I could be reading into this. It'd be good to have all this, but that is a problem because she is expressing that to the police. I want clothes. I've been wearing these same clothes for days. Someone get this parent. Okay. Glad to hear your pussy. Let's see. Phobe said, glad to hear you pussy and crack were spared. Okay. That's my bike race. These random streams are hard to keep up with. Yeah, right. How much cum do you drink before a bike ride? Not enough. Very sad. Why would you risk your kids unless you're strung out? Exactly. Intentionally traumatizing the children. Kayla looked high in the mugshot, guessing that's why she didn't answer the door. Could be. If you're a drug user, the safest way to hide your drugs under your kid's bed. Oh, shit. Yeah, yes, I guess so. But I imagine they might have searched that. I'll have to look back at the live-in Andy. No, thanks. I remember this from Mindset. I need to see the body cam for this because of what the child says. Can't wait for the Kiwis to get the footage. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes kids just want to have the same clothes. It is true, but this one particularly seemed to express a problem with the clothing and wanted different clothing. One last thing here. I think we'll take a look at this. This is kind of from what we just saw, and then we're going to see if I could share this. Okay, so these are some DMs from Nick. This is also why you don't. Good God, I don't know what's up with my throat here. This is also why you don't get on social media with these things. And I telling Andy the other day about this legal issue that I have, work related, but you just don't talk about it. This is Nick. I'm literally talking about a bullshit neglect report from a specifically vindictive person that is quite literally the opposite of truth. I'm not talking about anything else at all. I'm not saying anything else in here. Talk to me in DMs. Oh, and no guns were ever discharged in this home. I don't even own a 22. I don't think that's really the issue. I haven't fired any of my guns since moving from my other home to here. It's been about 5 years. All of them were locked, handguns in the safe. AR had a lock through the receiver. Well, it didn't sound like they were in the safe. My dad was helping with driving the other day for our kids' education extracurricular activities. He tallied it up, 80 miles on a day average. Okay, well, you have kids. You guys don't work, so, cry to me a river. I don't care what people think about almost anything. The kid shit is bullshit. I'm pretty sure I know who reported that, and they have specific animus towards me. The first activity I missed on my kids was the day I was in jail. Well, let's talk about that. The one person that reported it, yeah, the pastor did, but the kids reported it too. The sister reported it too. The nanny reported it too. This guy's he may not know that he needs to go on Kiwi Farms and get this leaked info. Shockingly, not pulled over, not cited for a DUI ever, never even questioned for a DUI ever. Okay, solid. You've practiced driving hammered. Anyway, whatever issues exist for me, and I'm not admitting to shit during my case, obviously, I figured a friend of mine would maybe realize that my children have never been neglected or in danger, but I guess that small courtesy is too much. No fucking idiot. No one sees me drive. I know it's hard to see someone when they're driving 88 4 hours after a bender. Again, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you referring to speeding? I don't know what's going on. Maybe we just get out of that. That's just more shit that we don't need to get into. Okay. Some kinds. Jay Fort says the gun charge is just an add-on because drugs are. Yes, Exactly. Exactly true. And like I said, I'm not a fan of that at all. I understand why people have gone to having these kind of laws, but I'm not a fan of that. I would hope that it would get, maybe it gets thrown out with the new way Bruin is even looked at. And I've talked about this before, which is you have restraining orders, and the standard of proof that you only need there is very simple. Preponderance of the evidence, and yet your guns will be taken away based on that. So, Crimea River, exactly as Toad would say, Nick is failing a dad, but Kayla is perfectly useless. Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, we understand his job. Well, he doesn't do law anymore. He just sits at home, gets on YouTube. Fine. By the way, I do need to get the fuck out of here. I got a job to do. And then I don't know what she's doing. So, Crimea River. Nick is, we've said that, and I do that easily on a regular basis. I usually drive to and from 2 county. Yeah, by the way, you've got a 16-year-old. Start getting that kid a car and driving. Okay, that's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I got the first kid. He started driving the others around. Then the next one goes in. She's driving the other ones around. And next thing you know, Mom and I, we could get hammered. We didn't. Okay, North Side over here on Rumble said, you got that cold that has been going around the North Bay, counselor, getting over it. I don't. It's as Andy would say, it's just the phlegm from the min I'm taking down. No, I'm not. But it's a thing that's always been with me, talking, and I get a little phlegmy. The mom have it, clear the throat. I don't understand what's going on, but those are it. Okay, last few comments and then we'll go. Thanks for keeping me entertained, Tyler. You had to pull over because the rain here in Texas is wild and my car keeps wanting to throw off my driver's side windshield wipers. Yikes. Yeah, stay safe there, Lincoln. This inward keeps talking to me at work, trying to enjoy the stream. That's the way it is. It's the way it is, people. So I don't plan on, so here's the deal. Usually I stream on Fridays. I don't know if it's going to happen because Saturday morning, very early, whole family getting on the plane, flying out to South Carolina, and then we're going to Wednesday, and then Wednesday we're going over to Nashville, seeing Andy and some other people. Not really Andy, just kidding. No, we'll see Andy. We're going to do some things over there, and then we're flying back. So I'm going to be gone from Saturday to Saturday. Then I have a few days, and then I have to go up to Northwest. So it's just it's a rough and tumble time. I don't know. I did a bunch of streams here. You can do this. I don't anticipate doing any while I'm gone. So this is what it is. Probably won't even be helping with Tower Gang this next week. So enjoy these ones. But if more info comes out on Nick, maybe we'll do them again. I thoroughly enjoy walking through this, trying to give a little bit of legal perspective. I'm not a criminal attorney, but what I do is advise families and people constantly. So some of this really comes into my wheelhouse, and especially if it ties in with CPS, then you've got more aspects of these issues that I'm involved in, and I just try to also just walk through this to say, hey, do the right thing, make decisions before you just try to get it maybe in tune, maybe go to God, okay? Which is crazy that Nick's going to church still, so he's got some of this. I mean, I don't think he's a complete horrible person, and I hope things change with this. Apparently, Nick did post the $50K bail, so he was assuming he doesn't have any other restrictions, which does worry me a bit. By the way, I appreciate you coming here. I talked about that at the very beginning. I showed his bail. You're right. He posted cash bail, paid $5,000 for the 50. His wife, by the way, did not. So she is under those restrictions. Nick is not. Thanks, Yonki. You bet, Shannon. All right, guys. Until next time. This has been Libertarian Podcast Review. Don't forget to subscribe, right? Make a comment. Do whatever you got to do. Share the show around. Help us out. Help a brother out here. Oh, I missed that beginning. Yeah, go check it out. It's very informative. All right, guys. And make sure I push the right one because I've been putting the intro now, though. Till next week, or probably a week and a half.
Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back.
Chick-fil-A is completely overrated. It's not that good. I prefer Zaxby's. I prefer Popeyes.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. And I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Should I vote for Dick Cheney on the Libertarian Party? Do I have an obligation to vote for Dick Cheney?
I would say so.
Yes.
Did it work for those people?
No, it never does. I mean, these people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but it might work for us.
That one dude was like, not a podcast, I can't find it anywhere, and they don't have video.
Oh, yeah, Peter Janke, yeah.
Yeah, I blocked him.
I'll do it. If he unblocks me, I'll...
He'll buy your shirt if you unblock him, Bert.
he's a wigger.
Yeah, nothing cooler than
So
a
he's-
49-year-old
like-
wigger.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
all I
started
got.
live streaming. Cut me some slack. I'm pretty high tech for a boomer. But
For
anyways,
a boomer.